highlights of the South African Off-Road Championship are proudly presented by ABSA. For fast, flexible, competitive vehicle finance, contact your nearest ABSA branch or call 0860 669 669 or visit absa.co.za. The Oven Fresh Biscuits 500, round 4 of the SA Off-Road Championship, presented by ABSA, recently took place in the Mafeking area. 64 production and special vehicle teams made the annual pilgrimage to the Northwest Province, and competition was expected to be tough. The area had not had rain for many months, and conditions were extremely dusty, which as always would make overtaking very difficult. For many teams who had not had a good start to the season, the event would be crucial, as it would be the last opportunity for them to get their championship campaigns underway. The morning was spent going through the usual formalities of documentation and scrutineering before the 42-kilometer prologue got underway. The GBS Nissan team has had a good run this season, and Hein Grobler is third in the production vehicle championship.
Maar ons het laas jaar gesien om elke keer voor te ry nie klaar te maak nie help nie. So het teruggekom met ons pas, probeer klaar maak, probeer konstant wees en dit lyk my werk hierdie jaar. So ons dis waarvoor dit uitgaan hierdie jaar en dis vir die hele team daar kry op die einde van die jaar bo in die kampioenskap kry. En ek dink soos dit nou doen gaan ons dit dalk miskien nog reg kry.
The team comprises 4 Nissan hardbody single-cab pickups and campaigns in Class D for 6-cylinder vehicles with limited modifications. They face stiff competition from father and son, Johan Martinez van der Merwe in the Chivani Colt Rodeo, who are only 1 point behind. Dion Skuman has performed consistently in the top car Rodo Nissan hardbody, but is 14 points behind Grobler. Much of the attention in the production vehicle championship is focused on Class E.
Well, I'm trying. We're trying to put it all together. The Class E championship is starting to look good, but just trying to focus on scoring the points, keeping it consistent, and hopefully the T guys sort themselves out, and we'll just hopefully be there to grab the points.
Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin may be the runaway leaders in Class E and second in the overall championship, but former champions Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham, who trail the Castrol Toyota pair by 24 points, are determined to close the gap on the rookie driver. The Team Ford racing crew can, however, not afford to make any mistakes, as Kasi Kutsia and Oki Fari in the Castrol Toyota Hilux are only 3 points behind. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek are the overall and Class T championship leaders and are very aware of the threat posed by the Class E brigade.
Yeah, it's very, very, very close with everybody, and the problem is that all the lower class cars scores the same points as us in the class. So if we win overall, we probably just score about 3 or 4 points more than the Class E cars, and that's not going to be easy to stay ahead of them for the whole year. I mean, if you take our guys in the front, there's a lot of competition in the front, and to every time win your class, to stay ahead of the Class E cars is not going to be easy.
Scott Abraham and Richard Carolyn in the Atlas Copco Chicago Pneumatic Jeep are second in the Class T championship and are one of only a handful of teams to have finished all the races this season. Neil Woolridge and Ken Schalthammer in the Team Ford Racing Ranger are 9th in the overall championship, 72 points behind Grobler and Leek. Despite winning every race this year, Grobler and Leek's championship lead is rather tenuous. A non-finish for the Nissan pair and another podium finish for Cronier could see the positions at the top of the championship table reversed. In Class S for space frame vehicles with trailing arm front suspensions, Nick Gosler and Glenn Stain lead the way in the O'Hagan's Kopenhagen Hotel Race Co. But Mohammed Noor and Mohammed Mulson are only 4 points behind in the Super Veg Race Co. Is the overall special vehicle category and Class B championship leader in the Look Africa Truggy, but only by a few points.
Yeah, unfortunately we had the problem in the desert race with the electronics on the car, and I couldn't really do anything about it because it came from the rev counter that blew the module, and when I plugged the second one in, it blew the second one as well. So I had bad luck there. If I could have finished there, all the other main competitors were out at that stage, so I really could have collected a lot of points there.
Reigning Class B Drivers champion Marcus Taylor in the Rollerbuck JRE is only 3 points behind Null in the Class B battle, while newcomer to the special vehicle scene, Andrew Birkin, is third. Nissan Sugarbelt 400 winners Gerald Mundell and Billy Bond lead Class A in the prolonged bat.
It's getting quite close. We're 2 points behind Giel. Unfortunately, we had a bad result in Darling, but we did well at Sugarbelt, and we got a third place, a very lucky third place in Desert. And yeah, we're here for a finish again. Try and just keep the car together. We had a lot of gearbox problems. We sorted that out, and the car feels good. So yeah, we'd hopefully get some good points here today and put us in the lead on the championship.
John Moore and Fred Werner in the Shell Conics Chenoweth are second in Class A and fourth overall after 2 strong finishes. But not entering the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500 will see them drop down the order. Nissan Dealer 400 winners Atang Machaganeni and Mike Stangl in the Total Sam Racing Jimco are third in Class A and 6th in the overall standings. Just as in the case of the production vehicle category, vehicles from the lower class pose the biggest threat to the Class A contenders, few of whom have been able to finish races this year. The MSA Off-Road Car Racing Commission introduced a new seeding system at the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500. The seeding list is intended for use to determine the starting order on the prologue only and is based on a formula which takes into account the qualifying times of all competitors since 2001.
The seeding system, when we have a problem like we had at Sugarbelt where the prologue had to be cancelled, we all of a sudden realized this is the next step. And in that way we know who's fastest, we worked out the times, and it's also much more fair to the competitors where people that are equally fast are together with each other, and from that point also much safer. Fast guys don't land up behind slow cars, and it makes it a lot more competitive and a lot safer for the individual competitors concerned. And from an admin point of view, it's also much easier. There's a fixed start time, there's a fixed, well, not a fixed ending time, but there's an ending time, and the fast people are there, you know, in that bunch who is fastest.
But what did the competitors think of the new system?
I'm absolutely delighted with it. It's the most fair way of starting. It's like rallies. We've always had the problem that we get held up. We run for the queue, and a slower car ducks in front of you, and this is an absolute fair way of doing it. I know there's a bit of muttering amongst the competitors that they're not seated on the right place yet. It will sort itself out, but I think it's the best idea that's come to off-road in the last 2 years or so.
There was a mixed reaction from Team Ford Racing's Neil Woolridge.
I'm all for experimenting and change. You know, if its technology is better, then we've got to go ahead, and if it's a good system, then let's go with it. But my personal feeling is that if we're trying something, maybe we should be trying on a regional event rather than a national event, where it's very, very important, and for argument's sake, you might have a slower person in front of you, and then it's actually going to hold you up a bit. But yeah, I'm all for change. You know, if it's going to work well, then fine. Let's see. Today we'll tell.
Castrol Toyota co-driver Robin Harton was upbeat about the new system.
I think it's a very good idea. It's about time we did something like this. As I participate in rallies as well, I'm fairly familiar with the process, and it's worked very well there. Basically, in the past, because there's quite a big discrepancy amongst the vehicles in a particular class, whether it be A or all the way down to a Class F car, you get the quicker cars and the slower. So just having individual classes ahead of each other is sometimes a problem, in that you may be in a Class E car, which is considerably quicker than the back marker of a Class B field. So in the past we have had problems, and often in many instances we either catch the cars in the section, in the time trial, or they have to give us extra gaps, which then extends the whole field. So I think it's a good idea. Obviously in the first event now we're going to have some teething problems, I'm sure, but as it goes along I'm sure it's going to improve, and they'll just be able to polish it a little bit, and yeah, that's definitely the way to go for it.
Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek topped the seeding list and are followed by proudly South African Nissan teammates Janelle de Villiers and Francois Jordan. Winner of 4 events last year, Gerard Duplessis is the top-seeded special vehicle driver and is third in the overall rankings. Grobler and Leek were away first on the prologue and completed the 42-kilometre route on the outskirts of Mafeking in just under 23 minutes.
500 straight again. crossroads straight.
De Villiers and Duran couldn't match their teammates' pace and qualified 42 seconds behind the leaders. The De Villiers proudly South African Nissan hardbody is similar to the Dakar vehicles and features a space frame chassis and independent suspension on all four wheels. Third-seeded Woolridge and Schulthammer qualified third in the Team Ford Racing Ranger, 52 seconds slower than the leaders. The team was in a confident mood after solving the overheating problems that forced them into retirement on the Toyota 1000. Reigning production vehicle champions Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith were only 3 seconds slower than the Ford, which meant that they would have to contend with choking dust and poor visibility when the main race got underway at 8 o'clock the next day. Gerald Mundell previously raced in Class B, where he did not enjoy much success. The move to Class A and a competitive vehicle was just what the doctor ordered. He and Billy Bond qualified fastest on the Nissan Dealer 400 and then went on to win the Nissan Sugarbelt 400 in the Prolong Bat and lead the special vehicle pack home in the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500 Prolong. Bat designer and constructor Brandon Harkus and Gary Berthold qualified 6th fastest in the Nissan V6 powered Bat, but were 14 seconds slower than Mundell and Bond. They led the Toyota 1000 for much of day one, until retiring with a broken front suspension, and were confident of another overall win from one of the Bat stable of cars. Diamond prospector Gerard Duplessis and wife Quirby were 7th in the Liebherr Gymco and shared the same time with Harkus and Berthold. Gerard and brother Lawrence are formidable competitors, but Lawrence is no longer able to compete due to motion sickness brought on by a bout of jaundice some time ago. Nissan Dealer 400 winner Atang Makhaganeli's ambition of being the first Botswana to win the Toyota 1000 were dashed when he and Mike Stangl were forced into retirement while leading on day one. The pair qualified 8th and were intent on getting their championship campaign back on track by winning the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500. R.P. Reinecke and Robin Harton have not had the best of season in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser and have only managed to complete one of the 3 races so far. They managed to qualify 10th, but gained a place after 9th place qualifiers John Weir Smith and Jeff Minnett withdrew with a blown engine on the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Gymco. The aging but ever spectacular Jojo Tanks VW Beetle of Yaki Joubert qualified just over 2.5 minutes slower than Grobler and Leek and would have a lot of catching up to do. Scott Abraham and Richard Carolyn share driving duties in the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep and set up the 12th fastest time with rookie driver Abraham behind the wheel during the prologue. Veteran Cliff Barker and Vic Kampfer were back in action in the MGM Motors Land Rover, which sports a BMW M3 engine. Mountain biking occupies much of Barker's free time these days, and appearances at off-road races are rare. They qualified 13th. Leading Class D qualifiers were Alfie Cox and Henny Tersteger in the Arnold Schatz Cars Nissan hardbody. The pair won the class on the Nissan Sugarbelt 400 and was hoping for a repeat win in the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500. Bit of a rough ride for Class D contenders Piet Haasbroek and Freddie Skeepers, who qualified 15th in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. Class D Championship leaders Hein Grobler and Gerhard Prinsloo qualified 16th in the GBS Racing Nissan and would start the main event 29 seconds behind Cox and Tersteger. Marcus Taylor and Mark de Chalane were 17th fastest in the Class B leading Rollerbuck Racing JRE and way ahead of the rest of the Class B contingent, many of whom had got lost. They were followed by Kutsia Labuskachny and Johan Garba in another of the GBS Racing Nissan hardbody pickups. Newcomer to off-road racing Zane Pierce is better known for his saloon car racing exploits, and he and co-driver Henny Vosloo showed the rest of the Class E field the way home in their high Q Ford Ranger. Marius van Vieren and Chris Marie were only 3 seconds slower in the Albaranti Auto Spray Land Rover and would start 19th. Hein Moolman and Cecil Fincham rounded out the top 20 starters and were second fastest in Class E, while Frikkie Botha and Melville Priest, who had got lost, were the leading Class S qualifiers and would start 58th in the Santon Off-Road Accessories Raceco. Andre Botha and Beans Heidenreich were the lone Class F qualifiers in the O'Hagan's Kopenong Hotel Chev and would start 41st. Only 5 minutes separated the top 20 qualifiers, with 13 of the top 20 places occupied by production vehicles. Nissens again dominated the top placings. There was no rest for the service crews as they set about preparing the vehicles for the next day's main event, which would comprise 2 laps of a 224-kilometer route. The SA Off-Road Championship is proudly presented by ABSA.
Isn't it reassuring to know that as you're thinking about a life together, Sunlum is thinking about life cover? And when you're thinking of everything your child could be, we're thinking about provision for education. That while your thoughts are focused on getting fit, Sunlum is thinking about retirement planning. And as you're thinking about your career, we're thinking about investment planning. Because the last thing on your mind is the first thing on ours. Sunlum, thinking ahead.
A test of composure. A test of determination. A test of experience. A test of strength. A test of control.
Now the purest form of the game will test the very essence of the player. A test within a test within a test. Live and exclusive to Supersport. The third test from Trent Bridge, proudly sponsored by MTN.
Wife keeping you busy, stuck in the traffic, or out on a business lunch, and you want the latest cricket updates? Well, just call 083 900 4000. The Supersport Budget Cricket Hotline, always keeping you in the picture.
The SA Off-Road Championship is proudly presented by ABSA. An early winter's morning start for the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500. Round 4 of the SA Off-Road Championship presented by ABSA. The atmosphere was tense as crews prepared for a grueling, dusty, high-speed trek through the bush.
Yeah, definitely. That is why we went a little bit fast yesterday, because we knew that if there's not going to be wind and it's very dry out here, it's going to be very, very dusty and the dust is going to hang. So it's definitely an advantage to be in the front. Strategy will play off the cuff in the race, but at the moment we're going to just put up a good pace, try and stay in the front, and then at the halfway mark we'll see how far the guys are behind us if nobody's in front of us.
Proper hydration plays an important role in off-road racing.
It's very important. The first part of the stage you don't really feel, you're not really thirsty, but it's important to keep on drinking, because towards the end you'll feel fatigued, and then when you're thirsty it's actually too late, so you've got to keep on drinking throughout the whole stage.
Correct race strategy is a vital component of the sport.
I think it's going to be a bit of a waiting game. I think if the person really tries to push too hard early in the morning in the dusk, he could come unstuck with the rocks and everything. So I think we have to play a bit of a waiting game. Maybe wait until we get into the bad rocks. I believe there's a lot of bad rocks. Maybe wait till we get into there and just make sure we don't make any mistakes and no punches, and make sure we don't get out of the car all day, and I think we'll be fine.
While the production vehicles have dominated the scene in recent years, the Special Vehicle Brigade are intent on ending this domination.
Oh, well, we've had pole every race this year, barring Sugar Belt when they had a seeded draw. The cars are very fast. I mean, you turn this into wins now. I think today's going to be exciting. We're starting on the same second as the Duplessis brothers, so I think it's going to be quite good into the first corner. But I think we'll both keep it level-headed about it. So I'm looking forward to the day, and it should be good for us. It's about time we had a win.
Makhaganeri narrowly missed winning the event last year and dearly wanted to add another win to his growing tally of victories.
Very fast cars in front of us and very competitive drivers. We just have to wait for them something to happen to their cars. So in a good position, in a good slot, if a wrong slot, we might make up. But we have a very good chance, car's strong, and we feel good about the race.
A win for the Duplessis husband and wife crew would be an historic first in local off-road racing.
Ons gaan weer goed proberen. Ons vrou ry nou 'n jaar saam. Ons is 'n bietjie teruggeval met die wegtrek, maar ek dink dit gaan baie stowwerig wees en ons gaan net probeer 'n goeie pas hou. En dan hoop vir die beste. Dit sal gaaf wees vir my vrou en vir ons, want sy ondersteun my baie in die sport en dit is sy nou besluit hierdie jaar om saam te ry. So ek dink dit sal 'n goeie ondervinding vir haar ook wees as dit kan regkry.
The irrepressible Cox was in a confident mood.
Yeah, after the disastrous desert race, I've got my navigator back again. Henny's back in the passenger seat, and yeah, I know the limit of the pickup. I found it out at the desert race, so I'm very happy. I mean, to win the class, it's just show the boys that we can do it. Our 4th race into the year, and yeah, I know we're going to but off-road racing, I've got to save the pickup today, and it's a long way. But I'm happy to start where I am and right near the front, and we only lost, I think, 3 minutes on the leaders yesterday. So that's a good place to start, especially with the dust this morning. And yeah, we're going to give it our best shot today.
Zane Pierce's performance was a turn-up for the books.
Yeah, I think we're very happy with what we achieved yesterday in the prologue. We were looking to do well. We've had 2 races now, got a bit more experience, and the vehicle went very well as well. So a good day for us so far.
The pressure was on for the reigning Class B champions.
Obviously, with the new sponsors on board, we need to deliver. So yeah, the pressure's on a little bit. We've got the usual suspects behind us, which is going to make it interesting. But we're a lot further forward than we were expecting. I think there were a couple of guys who got lost in the time trial, so it's going to be interesting with a lot of guys coming from the back today.
Much of the terrain for the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500 was flat, with a mountainous section in the top end of the loop, which could prove to be the undoing of many teams. Krobler and Leek led the field away as they had done on many occasions during the past 2 years. Pundits predicted they would not be able to extend their record-breaking run of 6 consecutive wins. De Villiers and Jordan started 42 seconds later and had the advantage of a slight dust gap on their proudly South African Nissan teammates. The next 7 vehicles would start less than a minute apart, and their visibility and overtaking problems were about to begin. Nissan Sugar Belt 400 winners, Mundell and Bond, led the special vehicle field away in their prolong bat and were followed by Harkis and Bertalt, who started on the same time as the Duplessis couple. Reynick and Houghton in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser started just over 2 minutes behind the leaders.
200 meters, 90 left and stop at road crossing. 100, 90 left, stop at road crossing.
On board with a rather relaxed-looking Hannes Krobler.
It's actually a left-right to a stop. Turn left over railway line and go straight. Stop here. Go. And go straight.
Krobler and Leek had a huge advantage over the rest of the field and steadily increased their lead over teammates De Villiers and Jordan. Former production vehicle champions Woolwich and Schulthammer had to settle for third in the 3.4-litre V6-powered Team Ford Racing Ranger. There wasn't even the slightest breeze to help clear the dust, and anyone who took unnecessary risks was headed for early retirement from the race. Force and Griffith held down fourth place in the proudly South African Nissan and were closely followed by special vehicle category leaders Mandel and Bond, who had Harkes and Berthold desperately trying to close the gap in the hope of gaining the lead. Mmabatho and Stangl had already gained a place by overtaking Gerard and Kirby du Plessis, who had decided to let the leading bat entries and Mmabatho fight it out until visibility improved. Reyneke and Harton were in the thick of things in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser.
Where are you going to go? Left. That's top one. Links the sprint. Where? Baie, hy sien het aan die regs. Baie, hy sien het aan die regs.
They were unable to make an impression on the leaders in this early stage in the race. The popular Jojo Tanks VW Beetle, which will soon be replaced by a new vehicle, was 10th. It hasn't been a good year for the Nashua Mobile Racing Squad. Greg Dowse withdrew from the race with gearbox problems, and Terence Marsh and Trevor Eyre got lost in the prologue. They completed over 80 kilometres instead of 42 kilometres and started 61st. A similar fate befell Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin in the Castrol Toyota Hilux, who started 60th. Gareth Walk in the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Mighty Mag also got lost on Friday and started 59th. Back to the main event, with aerial visuals courtesy of the Kopanong Hotel Medical Rescue Helicopter. There was just no catching the high-flying Nissan of Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek. The championship leading pair had opened up a 2-minute lead after 90 minutes of racing and were seemingly invincible. De Villiers and Jordan were second overall in the proudly South African Nissan hardbody. They had only managed to finish one race this year, and that was the Toyota 1000, where they came from behind after an horrific head-on collision with a spectator vehicle soon after the start of day 2, to finish second overall behind their teammates. Woolridge and Schulthammer were 3 minutes behind De Villiers and Jordan. The Team Ford Racing Ranger didn't seem to have the pace of the front-running Nissans, but it was later explained that the roof air vents had popped open for some strange reason, and dust in the cockpit proved to be a major problem for driver and co-driver. Harkes and Berthold had grabbed the special vehicle category lead when Mandel and Bond picked up a puncture on the prolonged bat, but they trailed overall leaders Grobler and Leek by over 27 minutes. Force and Griffith had dropped a place to the Bat Racing crew, and the proudly South African Nissan hardbody sounded decidedly sick. Castrol Toyota stalwarts R.P. Reyneke and Robin Harton had no answer for the Nissan barrage and had to be satisfied with 5th overall. They last won a race at the start of the 2002 season and desperately needed a strong finish. Mmabatho and Stangl tend to be slow but consistent starters and then pick up their pace in the closing stages of the race. This strategy seemed to be paying off, and they were second overall in the special vehicle category, just over a minute ahead of arch-rival Gerard du Plessis and wife Kirby, who were having gear selection problems on the Liebherr Jimco. Yaki Joubert was having a good run in the Jojo Tank's VW Beetle, but it would be short-lived. The drivetrain failed before the midway service point, and they were relegated to being spectators for the rest of the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500. Sheer consistency has paid off handsomely for Scott Abraham and Richard Carolyn in the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep. The pair, with Carolyn behind the wheel on the first lap, had moved up to 10th overall, but was under pressure from Class D leaders Alfie Cox and Henny Tersteger in the Arnold Schatz car's Nissan Hardbody. Tosca farmers Piet Haasbroek and Freddie Skeppers in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser were on familiar terrain and within sight of the class-leading Nissan, while Marcus Taylor and Mark de Chalane had matters under control in Class B. Zane Pierce and Henny Vosloo in the high-Q Ford Ranger had a slender lead in Class E and were being chased by Hein Mullman and Cecil Fincham in the aging Toyota Hilux. Kasi Kutsia and Oki Fari weren't far behind in the factory-prepared Castrol Toyota Hilux KZT. The leading Nissans didn't stop at the midway service point, but Woolridge and Scholthammer had to make an unscheduled pit stop to have the roof air vents taped closed. There was frantic activity in the Bat Racing pit, with Harkis and Berthold changing places behind the wheel. Duncan Foss was concerned about the persistent misfire on the Nissan, while Toyota 1000 winner John Weir Smith watched from the sidelines.
Oh, we've had a couple of problems with the engine this year, and it just seems to be a recurring problem, and one of those things, so we'll have a bit of fun watching today. Give it a bash next time. We'll probably send the engine off to Germany this time. People that know what they're doing.
There was a slight delay in the Sam Racing pits while mechanics attended to a gear linkage problem on Machaganani's Jimco. Sadly, Gerard and Kirby Duplessis' race was run.
Nee, as iets fout met die radkas. Hy maak 'n lawaai en seker dan kry ek hom nie geselek nie. Wil hy nie die rad Hy is net so skielik. As ons net so agterraad hang, net as ons verbygaan. Voel ek nee, hier's nou fout.
Time for a driver change in the Jeep, with Abraham taking his turn at the wheel. Alfie Cox cruised into the pits with nothing but a friendly wave for his service crew and was followed by Cliff Barker and Vic Camphor in the MGM Motors Land Rover. Mundell and Bond stopped to refuel and replace a punctured tire on the Prolong Bat.
Very dusty, eh? And get up to somebody, that's it, and you can't go any further until either he has a puncture or goes in the wrong direction. But yeah, good fun.
Kutsia and Fari were the new Class E leaders after Pearson Vosloo were slowed by punctures. The SA Off-Road Championship is proudly presented by ABSA.
Sundam, thinking ahead.
A contest as old as the land, as hard as the earth it's played on. Rooted in pride. It's strength versus strength on tribal grounds. The ABSA Currie Cup Premier Division on Super Sport. Nashua Greekworths up against Vodacom Eagles. Vodacom Free State Cheetahs versus Investec Western Province. Lions take on Mobile Blue Bulls. Offered with pride by ABSA.
The SA Off-Road Championship is proudly presented by ABSA. Lap Lap 2 of the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500, Round 4 VSA Off-Road Championship, presented by ABSA. And Grobler and Leek were now only 1 minute and 20 seconds ahead of teammates de Villiers and Jordan. Rally winner Janelle de Villiers had picked up the pace and was putting Hannes Grobler under pressure that he certainly didn't need at this stage of the race. And Schalthammer were only 5 minutes behind the leaders, and apart from a puncture, had not had any problems on the Team Ford Racing Ranger. The misfire on Voss and Griffith's proudly South African Nissan continued unabated, but it did not seem to affect the reigning production vehicle champions, who were 4th overall. Harkus and Berthold had a firm grip on the special vehicle category lead, but disaster was about to strike. A left rear puncture forced them to stop, which allowed their pursuers to gnaw away at their lead. Took advantage of the Bat Racing crew's problems and moved up a place in the overall standings. The Bat Racing pair made quick work of replacing the flat wheel and managed to hold on to the special vehicle category lead just ahead of Machaganeni and Stangl in the Total Sam Racing Jimco. Alfie Cox was having a good time in the Class D, leading Arnold Chatzkar's Nissan Hardbody. The 40-year-old off-road motorcycle star had made a successful transition from 2 to 4 wheels and already had 1 class win under his belt. Scott Abraham was now behind the wheel of the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep and was starting to pile on the pressure when all hell broke loose. A rear control arm broke and the vehicle was launched into a series of barrel rolls and eventually ended up on its roof, which left the way open for Barker and Kampfer to gain another position in the MGM Motors Land Rover. With just over an hour to go in the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500, Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek had upped their pace in the proudly South African Nissan Hardbody and were 3 minutes ahead of teammates Janelle de Villiers and Francois Jordan, who dropped some time when they picked up a puncture. And Schalthammer had no answer for the Nissans and decided to settle for 3rd overall in the Team Ford Racing Ranger. Despite the field having spread out, dust and poor visibility was still a problem for everyone bar the leaders. And talking of leaders, Machaganeni and Stangl were the new special vehicle category leaders. They're taking full advantage of Harkus and Berthold picking up another puncture on the Bat Racing entry. Gerald Mundell and Billy Bond in the Prolong Bat were now 3rd overall in the special vehicle category, over 4 minutes behind the second-placed Bat of Harkus and Berthold. Class D leaders Alfie Cox and Henny Tersteger maintained a fast but cautious pace in the Arnold Chatzkar's Nissan Hardbody. Marius van Vieren and Chris Marie were having their best run of the season in the Albaranti Auto Spray Land Rover. They were 2nd in Class D and well ahead of GBS Nissan pair Kutsia Labuskachny and Johan Garber, whose teammates Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo lost a lot of time replacing a front wishbone. battle for Class E honours was intense. Kasi Kutsia and Oki Farid led in the Castrol Toyota Hilux KZTE and had husband and wife Niels and Zelda van der Walt in close pursuit in the diesel-powered Nissan hardbody. Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham made it a diesel-powered benefit when they came through third in the Team Ford Racing Ranger. Clint Gibson and Mike Brown in the Presidium Financial Services bat took over the Class B lead soon after the midway point. Gareth Walk, who got lost during the prologue and started 59th in the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Mighty Mag, was at one stage only 6 seconds behind Gibson, but dropped down to third. Botswana businessmen Mohammed Noor and Mohammed Mulsin had matters under control in Class S, but could not afford to ease their pace because Frikkie Botha and Melville Priest, who'd also got lost in the prologue, were on a charge in the Santon Off-Road Accessories Race Co. Priest, like Zane Pierce, comes from a saloon car racing background. There were only a few kilometers to go in the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500, and predictably, proudly South African Nissan pair Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek were still in the lead, and on their way to an unprecedented 7th consecutive race win. De Villiers and Jordan had at one stage closed to within 30 seconds of the leaders, but dropped back with a puncture. Woolridge and Schulthammer had also picked up a puncture on the Team Ford Racing Ranger, but managed to change the wheel without losing a position. Fortunately for them, the challenge from Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith came to an end when they couldn't restart the Nissan after extinguishing a small fire in the engine compartment. Fourth-placed R.P. Reinecker and Robin Harton had a clean run in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser and were happy to finish their second race of the year. Apart from having to be dislodged from a tree by arch-rival Gerard du Plessis, special vehicle leaders Atag Machaganeni and Mike Stangl stayed out of trouble and were on the way to their second win of the season. Cliff Barker and Vic Camphor had made steady progress in the MGM Motors Land Rover, moving from 12th at the start to 6th overall. Early special vehicle leaders Brandon Harkis and Gary Berthold had a frustrating day in the bat. Punctures robbed them of a potential win, and they had to complete the last 80 kilometers of the race with a flat wheel. Alfie Cox and Henny Testeger proved to be a formidable combination in the Class D leading Arnold Chat's Cars Nissan hardbody, while Mandel and Bond produced another consistent podium finish in the prolonged bat. Marius van Vieren and Chris Marie finally brought the Alboranti Auto Spray Land Rover home in one piece to record their first finish of the season and a well-earned runner-up spot in Class D. Class E ended up being a diesel benefit with the first 4 vehicles across the line powered by diesel engines. Kutsia and Farid showed the rest of the field the way home in the Castrol Toyota Hilux and were followed by Labuskachting and Garba in the Class D GBS Racing Nissan. Niels and Zelda van der Walt in the Nissan hardbody were happy with their second place finish in Class E, only 21 seconds ahead of third placed Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham in the Team Ford Racing Ranger. Former Class D champion Piet Haasbroek and Freddie Skeppers have had mixed fortunes this season and had to be satisfied with fourth in Class D in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. The father and son Van Renen combination survived their dusty ordeal and brought the Nissan Terrano home sixth in Class T, while Dion Skuman and Jeremy Ford in the Top Car Ferodo Nissan hardbody made it 4 finishes in 4 starts. Jannie Visser and Johan Leroux brought their Toyota Hilux, affectionately known as Fred and previously driven by Cassie Coetzee, home 7th in Class T, with Hannes Steen and Ferdy Seegers 4th in Class E in the diesel-powered Toyota Hilux. Former production vehicle champion Alfred van Vieren and son Tommy finished 20th overall and 5th in Class E, with championship contenders Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin 15 seconds behind in the slightly battered Castrol Toyota Hilux. Clint Gibson and Mike Brown in the immaculately prepared Presidium Financial Services bat managed to hold on to the Class B lead until the finish. Noor and Mulzin had a slender lead in Class S and would miss out on the class win when Buerta and Priest nipped past just before the finish. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek never put a wheel wrong and crossed the finish line just under 2 minutes ahead of de Villiers and Jordan to win the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500 and record their 7th consecutive victory in the Nissan.
The vehicle didn't miss a beat, and the vehicle was unbelievable. Team did a great job, and we won it.
Janelle de Villiers and Francois Jordan made it a Nissan 1-2.
We couldn't really do anything. I mean, we just had a whole station behind Hannes, and it was impossible to pass. And we knew no one could pass us, so we were just holding station. We got a puncture towards the end, but we had a good enough gap on the guys behind, so we could change it and get out in. I'm glad they had a 1-2.
Neil Woolridge and Ken Schalthammer were happy under the circumstances with their third-placed finish in the Team Ford Racing Ranger.
We didn't have such a great first lap. I didn't feel really part of the car really right, and a really stupid little thing was this vent broke open right near the beginning, and it just sort of put me off my pace, and we lost a bit of time, and then on the second lap we really started to go, and we got right back into Geniel's dust, and we had I think a rim went on the left rear, so we had to stop and change that. But we're very happy. It's a good, strong third finish. It's the first time we're actually doing a full race distance with a new car, the new engine, and we're very, very, very happy. It's very enthusiastic. The car's good, and I think there's a lot more to come. And I think it makes for a very exciting remainder of the season. You know, we've got 4 events left, and the car's really on the pace, and just got to get ourselves a bit more on the pace, and we'll be there.
Ipi and Magali Makhaganeni waited in eager anticipation for their father, and there were cheers all round from the enthusiastic Sam Racing crew, who had to push the Jimco off the finish line when Makhaganeni couldn't select a gear.
kept the car together. We never had any punches. We lost reverse gear. Thank God to the Duplessis. They stopped. They pushed us out, and they still let us go in front of them. I think that's pure sportsmanship. I'm very proud of them. They're very, very good people. They deserve to win every race. And we followed Brandon for probably 150 k's from here, and we made time on them. When they turned, they took a 90 degree, they saw us, and that spooked them, I think, and they went like a bat out of hell, and I think they either got a puncher or hit something, I don't know, and we made it to the finish.
Harkus and Berthold limped across the line to finish over 23 minutes behind the special vehicle category winners. A well-earned Class D victory for Alfie Cox and Henny Tersteger.
We had one blowout just starting the second lap, so then, you know, we only had one spare, so we've been sitting on tender hooks the whole way because it's been very stony. But, you know, just a big thank you to Henny. Now that he's back, it's incredible to have a good navigator, and the team from Arnold Chats. I mean, the guys have worked, you know what off-road racing is about, and thankless hours, and look at them, happy as hell, the whole lot, and I'm over the moon as well.
Van Vieren and Marie finished second in Class D, with the Class E win going to Kossie Kutsia and Oki Fari.
Well, the first 100 k's was just formation, you know, it's follow the leader, and after 105 kilometers, two guys got flapped wheels, so in Class E, so from there we did it, and it was a nice, exciting race. Better than last year, definitely, in my first class win, so from now on we can just do better.
A maiden Class B win for Clint Gibson, Mike Brown and Bat.
Fine, dusty, very dusty. Yeah, over 44th, I think we did quite well. Hard day's work at the office.
Unlike previous events, the Class T Brigade dominated the top 5 positions in the production vehicle category, with Nissan picking up 2 class wins and Toyota 1. A similar scenario prevailed in the special vehicle category, with Class A vehicles occupying the top 3 places on the leaderboard. Class B entries filled 5 of the top 10 positions, and Bertha and Priest won Class S. The next event in the SA Off-Road Championship, presented by ABSA, is the Queen Motorspares 400 in Tarkastad on August 22nd and 23rd. Last year, the then reigning production vehicle champions, De Villiers and Jordan, romped to victory in the Nissan hardbody. Woolridge and Scholthammer were the defending event champions and could only manage to finish second in the Ford Ranger, with R.P. Reinecker and Robin Houghton third in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. John Weir-Smith and Jeff Minott blitzed the field to win the prologue and the special vehicle category overall in the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Gymco. Event sponsor and eventual special vehicle champion Greg Harvey and Boy Stone finished second in the Queen Motorspares Gymco and were followed across the line by Terence Marsh and Trevor Eyre in the Nashua Mobile Racing Gymco. The event gets underway with a prologue on Friday afternoon, and the main event starts at 8 o'clock on Saturday, with the first car due at the finish at around 1:30. Highlights of the South African off-road